What is up, guys? James Carter TV here for the second to last 2015 NFL season preview videos. I've been making a part of this 32 teams in 32 days throughout the month of August and now September. Today we are talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this is a team that was the worst team in the NFL record-wise last year. We'll tie for it. Now, they were really the worst team in the NFL to me. To me, that award goes to the that award goes to the Tennessee Titans. And yeah, I think even the Oakland Raiders were worse than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers actually were last year. The Buccaneers found themselves in a lot of games, but weren't able to close because for some reason Josh McCown just loved throwing games away physically in terms of interceptions, in terms of fumbles, giving games away to teams throughout the lower end stretch of that 2014 season. But regardless, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went 2-14. They were record-wise the worst team in the NFL, and they got the first pick in the 2015 NFL Draft, and in the form of Jameis Winston, quarterback out of Florida State, and he will determine their fate. And because quarterback is the biggest position, the most important position, really, in all the sports, but definitely in the NFL. And he alone will bring more success to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers franchise, short-term and long-term to me. And that's really what's going to affect this team. But we're going to go through the entire team. We're going to look at their strengths. We're going to look at their weaknesses. And then I will give you my official win-loss prediction for this football team based on the toughness of their schedule. Now, the biggest strength on this team to me is their wide receivers. Of course, you have Vincent Jackson on one side, Mike Evans on the other side, and everyone else really isn't that good. But when you have two guys, two pillars really on the outside that are as dominant as they are and need to be planned for and need to be reckoned with, that position is definitely a strong point for this football team and will ease the transition for Jameis Winston from college into the NFL, knowing that, hey, no matter what, I can just throw the ball up to Mike Evans, and there's a good chance he's just going to grab it and score a touchdown for me. It's a nice bailout plan to have. Hopefully he doesn't abuse it too much, because with a Jameis Winston, he can over-trust his wide receivers and trust them to bring down passes that they just can't. And we saw some of that in the preseason. So accurately and smartly throw the ball up to them. Don't just don't just throw it up there inaccurately, and then like we saw during the NFL preseason, it will get picked off. But these are two guys you can trust, and Jameis Winston will trust. After that, Kenny Bell and Louis Murphy are your three and your number four, and I think one of those even had a little minor injury in the preseason, so they may not be healthy to start a regular season. I can't remember which one. I apologize for that. But Kenny Bell, young guy, rookie out of Nebraska. I think it was him actually. I don't really expect much from him. Louis Murphy, I mean, I guess that's an all right slot corner, but or slot wide receiver. But hey, you have two wide receivers that are going to go and get passes for you. That's a good thing to have. The next strength on this football team, to be honest, I'll give it to the linebackers. Okay, you do have Levante David on one side. You do have Quan Alexander, who's been performing well in the preseason. Outside linebacker out of LSU, who could definitely provide a surge to your linebacking core. You also have Kasim Green, or no, not Kasim Green, excuse me. You also have Bruce Carter in the middle there. And Santa on one side of the linebackers as well. So the linebackers, it's the second biggest strength on this football team. That's definitely true to me. All right, so after that, there's not a position to me that I look at and I say it's an absolute strength. Now, there are some position groups that are in the middle, like running back. Okay, you have Doug Martin. Now, he could be a guy that could be one of the top 10 running backs in the NFL. I mean, he's had a season like that. And he's also had seasons where he was pretty bad. So which Doug Martin are you going to get? Which muscle hamster will you get? Will you get the muscle hamster, or will you get the little frail hamster that gets injured and really doesn't play well? So that could be a strength. It could be a weakness. Charles Sims is a guy you drafted last year, wasn't able to play much. You expect him to get more into the mold. He's also someone that is more of a receiving threat, but maybe not more. but needs to be accounted for in terms of his talent to catch the ball out of the backfield and make plays in the receiving game. So he's someone that I would like to see play and be a little safety valve for Jameis Winston, a little check down in the passing game. Bobby Rainey there as well, Mike James. So it could go either way, a strength or a weakness for this football team. It's definitely a position that is yet to be determined. Their offensive line could be a strength. I mean, you do have DeMar Dotson on one side, who has proven to be one of the better pass-blocking offensive tackles in the league. I think he's top 10 in terms of pass blocking in the league, which is important for Jameis Winston to have. You also have your two rookies, and Donovan Smith and Ali Marpet. Will they play well or will they struggle early? That's really going to determine whether or not this unit is a strength or a weakness for this football team, because you do have Evan Dietrich Smith also on this offensive line, and Logan Mankins as well, who are pretty good. So really it just comes down to these two rookies, how they perform. If they could perform well, this will be a strength of this football team. If they perform poorly, then you're looking at, yet again, the offensive line being a problem for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right. That's really it for me. The defensive line, okay, you have one good guy. It's a weakness. You do have Gerald McCoy in the middle, who is a force to be reckoned with. And you do have Henry Melton as well, but he's been an aging, steady, declining player for a while now. Your defensive lineman, William Golston, Larry English, your defensive ends, they're not good. And neither of them are going to get over 6.5 sacks. Like, if they get 7 sacks or more, I'll be shocked. So you lack a premier pass rusher on the outside. Jared McCoy, once again, is going to be your highest sack leader, which it's not a horrible problem to have, but you would like to have more production in terms of pass rush from your defensive ends, and I think that's going to be your biggest position of need heading into 2016. So you still lack a premier pass rusher on the defensive line. Akeem Spence is also on this defensive line. Clinton McDonald. None of these are pass rushers. So you're going to need to go after a defensive end in the 2016 NFL Draft. Just go ahead and plan for that. You let go of Michael Johnson. You signed him for the Bengals. You should have known, because in 2013 with the Bengals, he only had, I think, 4 sacks. You signed him. You expected him to do more. He didn't. And now he's back over there. So, that was a failure there. The secondary. You do have 2 good players. You have Antoine Werner and you have Sterling Moore. But the problem is that's it. Jonathan Banks has not reached expectations since he was drafted a couple years ago. Chris Contree, a Major Wright. You traded, or maybe you just released Mark Barron. Now he's with Seattle, St. Louis. You have McDougald on the secondary as well. DJ Schweringer. The safeties are a question mark for me. Jonathan Banks is a question mark for me. So I look at the secondary as also being a weakness for this football team. Unless the Jonathan Banks is finally the light turns on and he really starts to play as an above-average corner, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. And now your quarterback position, it's in the middle. We don't know. It could be a strength. It could be a weakness. Now, I think Jameis Winston will struggle definitely. He will struggle at times in 2015, as he did at times in the preseason, more often than not, really. It's not an accuracy problem for me. It's just when it comes to reading defenses in the moment, he has problems with zone coverages and with linebackers dropping into coverage and giving him problems in that sense. So I need to see how he will develop in terms of reading that and understanding and learning to hold on to the ball in that situation. He can be a little too gunslinger-ish, and for a rookie, that's going to cause problems. It would not surprise me if Jameis Winston has more interceptions than touchdowns in 2015. But unlike with a Blake Bortles or with a Blaine Gabbert or any of those other clowns before him, this is someone I can look at and I can understand why. It's because he has that gunslinger mentality. Blake Bortles was just bad. Blaine Gabbert was just bad. With Jameis Winston, he's just a gunslinger, and he trusts his arm and he trusts his receivers a little bit too much. So it wouldn't surprise me, but it will take a little bit of time. But eventually, Jameis Winston will definitely find success in the NFL in terms of reading these defenses and deciphering what they are doing at the line of scrimmage. Now, Let's look at the difficulty of their schedule, and I think this is your saving grace. I think this is a pretty manageable, very manageable schedule. Now, your team isn't very good, so there will still be plenty of losses here. But you go up against the AFC South, including hosting the Tennessee Titans and hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Those are games that you should win, but it wouldn't surprise me if you lose one of them, but you'll win. I think you'll win at least one of those. You're again in the NFC South. This was the worst division last year. I think it'll be better. I think the Saints will be better. I think the Falcons will be better. I think the Panthers will be worse. Can you upset some of them every now and then? Sure, I can buy that. You also face the NFC East, including trips to Philadelphia and a trip to who else are you? You're also going to where's that? Oh, Washington. You can beat Washington. I don't have much faith in Washington at all. You host New York Giants. You can beat them. You host the Cowboys. I don't think you'll beat them, but maybe you can make it interesting. You also face the Chicago Bears. You host them later on in the season, week 16, in fact. It wouldn't surprise me if you guys are able to challenge them and give them some problems early. And then you guys also faced, it should be an NFC West team, the St. Louis Rams in week 15. You go to there, and I don't have much faith in the St. Louis Rams. I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. This is a very manageable schedule. So with this in mind, best case scenario, I think it's 8-8. I can't see you guys being a winning team yet. I just think Jameis Winston is going to struggle too much for you guys to be a playoff team, because when we're talking about being a 9-7, 10-6, basically you're a playoff team at that point. You guys aren't a playoff team yet. 1 year away, though. I can buy that. Worst case scenario, Jameis Winston struggles more than even I think he will. And you guys go 5-11. My prediction, I'll go on the lower end of that just to be safe. I'll have 6-10. This will be good for you, though, Bucs fans, because it will allow you to get, once again, in the top 10 of the draft, get your defensive lineman, or defensive end, really, get your pass rusher, or get a Jalen Ramsey who can be in the secondary for you. Basically, you need yet another defensive stud. You need another one. You have Levante David, you have Jared McCoy, you have Altron Verner, who are all good. You need another. And you really need to fill some of these holes on this team, especially pass rusher for me. So find your guy in the top 10 of the 2016 NFL Draft, and there will be plenty. There will be plenty of guys. The 2016 NFL Draft is top-loaded with defensive players that are just waiting to play for your team. So get in the top 10 again. Pick one of your guys, let Jameis Winston develop, and then in 2016, we can have a conversation about playoffs. Until next time, James Carter TV, I'm out. Peace.